That's right. We're still time traveling. God.
And we're here.
Makes you a little sick, doesn't it?
Yes. Yeah,
So a joke we had made way back in the day, one of Jason's editing decks for the VHS, for the Super VHS. Was it had this neat feature where there's two kinds of audio tracks on VHS. One is embedded with the video, but then there's a second set of linear tracks that literally are just overlaid at the bottom of the tape outside of the visual range.
Like the cassette tapes, it would be the same amount of a strip for a left and right channel.
I see.
Record at the same speed.
I see. So the neat thing is you could make a video and then go back and add music to it later, or a second additional sets of audio.
Yeah. And that was like, you got to remember back in there, you couldn't have 15 tracks of a digital track down below. You had what you had. So
right. This was 93 we're talking about.
Right. So the cool thing is this was like a prosumer level players. So what we do is we leave the live audio, like what we're recording now, on what they would call the hi-fi, which was the signal that was integrated into the video signal that was a high quality.
Right.
I've always would have liked that high quality to be on the tracks for follow-y and editing. And then a lot of people would take those tracks left and right and use that as like an ambient one and then a music, but it would still be in mono. And that drove me nuts too. So what we would do is I'd leave our dialogue and talking on the hi-fi tracks.
Right.
And then later on I could go and just do an audio overlay of the left and right linear tracks at the bottom.
Right.
But it was cassette tape quality audio.
Which for nearly all purposes is good enough.
Right. And the reason why I used VHS is because when you did a second generation, it would degrade. So basically, most people had two cassette tapes. They'd have one that they recorded all their footage on the camera, or they'd even go to high 8 or 8mm to a cassette tape.
Sure.
Then they would take that cassette tape in the editor and then record a master tape. Well, you got 3 degradations of video quality, which was a big thing back then. Now, I mean, you could record a digital file over and over and over again. It would be the same with cassette tape. If you recorded a cassette tape off a cassette tape to a cassette tape, it would sound terrible.
Right.
Degradation. So what I did to reduce that degradation is used a high 8 tape or a super VHS that had double the resolution. So by the time we got to our master that everybody could watch, the video quality was much better. It wasn't as blurry. Yeah, it was passable. Today's standards, it would be a joke, but back then, for being on an amateur level, it was the best.
It was the best of the best
you could get without.
So I made some comment like, "Oh man, so you could, go through and he said, oh, on a lot of consumer level VHS tapes, they don't even have the hi-fi track; they just have the linear track."
Yes.
And I said, so you could like take a movie and replace the audio, and you said,
"That's a good idea."
And so we joked about it. Wouldn't it be funny if you went and like rented a movie, like an old kung fu movie or something, and took out all the audio and replaced it?
Yes.
And then when I was talking to Jason, I don't know, a year ago, he told me that.
Yeah. So one of them that we had done was
he actually did them.
Yes.
The madman actually went back after we were no longer really hanging out, and he's like, you know what? I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this.
Well, and what sparked it is my friend and I found a Blockbuster video card laying in the parking lot.
Oh, dear. Oh, dear, just somebody's...
Right, so we knew it couldn't be tracked back to us. So we went in with this card and rented Rainbow Bright, the movie.
Oh, man.
And then we also, at the same time, rented Legend and the giant demon and all the freaky scenes. And there's one with like a witch that comes out of the swamp, and it's freaky and scary looking. It even gave me the heebie-jeebies at 19. And what we do is there was an insert button, so you could also insert video without the end being all snowy. And so what we did is randomly we put scary scenes in this Rainbow Bright movie.
Nice.
And then we almost decided maybe to put porn in, but for some reason we didn't.
Well, I was thinking...
that was going too far.
Right, too far. What I was thinking is, so what you could do is you could take the movie, make a copy, and then cut the copy.
Yeah.
and then put the whole thing back on from scratch. So like in Porky's, I don't know if you know this, but the Blockbuster version had the adult scenes taken out. So you could put them back in fine fashion. And you could keep cutting back and forth to them, peephole, hardcore porn, peephole, hardcore porn. And you could do that for like 20 minutes. You could add a lot to that segment.
Yeah. We did this to a multiple amount of movies. We'd take a Disney movie, and then we would take like The Thing and all the gory, scariest scenes we could find. We would insert those just randomly into the movie.
Add some scenes of death to The Thing.
Yes.
To RoboCop.
And we actually one time, our video and graphics teacher in high school was a total jerk. Well, I'm looking at perspective of being a 17-year-old. He was probably an okay guy, but we thought he was a total a-hole. So what we did is some of his tapes we took one time, opened them up, cut out a part of the tape, put in a piece of sandpaper.
Oh,
spliced
savage.
in a strip of sandpaper about that long and wrapped it and wound it back up. So the next time he threw that into his cassette tape player or even at home, it would destroy the spinning heads on the inside.
Jesus, that's brutal.
Yeah, so I remember one time coming into class in one of the machines, and we had put on the tape randomly, do not play, do not watch.
Oh, wow.
And left it by one of the tape machines. So, of course, period 4, period 5 see that, and what are they going to do at that age when it says do not play?
Wow, that's brutal.
And so we came in the next day after that whole do not play fiasco, and needless to say, there was a service repair technician removing that player and going off to wherever he was to replace the head on it that had been sandpapered.
So, you know what else you could do is you could rent adult movies and take out all the money shots.
Or you could replace them with like Jesus scenes, or like from a church program, like T.D. Jakes. You could throw in a little bit about that, about sin, and yeah, just when you're at that point where you're like, oh yeah, here comes the, you know what you're doing.
Oh sure, put in televangelist scenes.
Right, exactly.
Oh yeah. Sure, that's great.
Yep.
You know what I was thinking you could do even now? Go to a friend of yours who has DVDs or Blu-rays,
right?
Like a box set, his favorite box set, and take out one of the discs, rip it to your hard drive, and make some small edits, and then make a new copy, print out a label to match, and then just not tell him. Just take the other one and hide it. Like go to the last disc in the one and put it in there, so he still has the original.
Right.
But what you could add? HDMI 1, just a black screen that says HDMI 1. And then it goes back to the video. Oh, that was weird. And then a little bit later, it's like input select, and it like switches to TV, and you could just put some TV in there, but just first, and then back. Oh, what's going on? And then just get a little bit worse and a little bit worse, and he's like messing with his remote, and he's like, "What the hell's going on?"
You could do it too, so it does a fast forward tape scene. With the squiggly lines.
Right. Well, then he'd know it's you.
It goes forward and then stops.
That would be. But then he'd rewind it and he'd be like, wait, this is the same TV clip. What the hell is going on?
Or at the warning at the beginning. Remember what it used to say back in the day. So you put in a Blu-ray and it's, like warning FCC, blah, 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 copyright infringement. And then after that have one that comes up that says, please be kind, please rewind.
Oh, sure. It's like, wait, what the hell?
We considered, my friend and I were going to make a CD rewinder in high school.
That was us.
Okay.
That was us. Oh, I'm sure that was us because
we had the Discman and then we put CD rewinder on it.
Jeremy actually made me one for Christmas one year, but he was so dumb. He put also CD fast forwarder. I'm like, yeah, the fast forward doesn't work, you jackass.
Right.
It only rewinds it.
Yeah. It just rewinds.
It was just an empty case.
Yeah.
Yeah. Put it in there. It's rewound.
Right. Yeah. We thought about. I took an old Discman that was broken, didn't work anymore, and basically. We just
labeled it.
Put a label that said CD rewinder.
Nice.
And then just push the button. And then, I mean, you could probably would have made one as a joke at Spencer's and sold it to like old people or something.
Sure.
So it would actually have a motor that spins it, and then it would spin for about 2 minutes, and then it would stop, and then a light would come on and be like, please eject.
Well, you could also just use there's games where there's a buzzer. Just there, it's rewound.
Right. Yeah.
But even then, I don't think old people would quite fall for that one.
Yeah, I think there's some that would go in. Maybe. Well, back then they would have. They would have been like, "Oh, well, that's a good idea."
So
I got myself a CD rewinder.
In the 90s, my mom went out to visit Grandma and bought her a VHS player, so she could watch, my plays and family things and all this stuff that's so meaningful.
Right.
And I come out to visit her, and she goes, "Oh, hey, are you good with VCRs?" So I was like, sure.
Yeah.
Well, it depends. What do you need? Can you rewind all my tapes so I can watch them again this year? I was like, yes, I can. Sure, I'll show you. No, I don't need that. Oh, okay. So I rewound all her tapes. She's like, great, I get to watch them again. Jesus, Grandma.
Yeah. That would have been one to buy one of those VHS rewinders. They were
Actually,
super
yeah.
fast, and they supposedly kept from burning out your motor in your machine.
Yeah, I think that was a marketing myth and a genius one at that.
Very genius. That's why we
Because
figured.
Who used the motors on a VHS more abusively than you did? I would say nobody.
Nobody.
Did you ever burn out a motor?
No.
No. You also had higher quality gear, but my
prosumer, I'd seen somewhere that it did wear out the motors because they used them. We had a jog shuttle, it would speed up and slow down those motors continuously all the time. Where like a regular consumer model is either playing or rewinding or fast forwarding. That's it. Mine, it's taking that head that's spinning and then moving those motors back and forth until I find the right cut.
Right. And even still, I mean, that's a lot of work.
Yes.
That's really hard on it. And yeah, the rewinders, really all they were was convenient.
Right.
And they were cheap. They were like $20.
And it's just amazing if you looked at the mechanics inside a VHS player. All the little pieces that they had to make cheap, but they had to make work that were stamped out. And now we're recording video on something that's basically completely solid state. There is no
moving parts to anything. Even the autofocus is non-mechanical. I don't know how that works, but you'll notice on the old Canon that we shot Kimmy with it on, if you focused, it couldn't. If it used the autofocus, you would hear it.
Right, the motor.
And you could manually focus it, but you could never get it right.
Yeah, and everybody knows that who used to make home videos, with old camcorders or even digital ones, is that, you'd be recording, and instead of using an external mic that everybody should use to some degree, even one that goes on the camera that sticks out like a boom is better than that integrated mic that's on the front, right by the lens, right by the motor.
Right by the motor. Like we want to make this vibrate as much as possible. Where should we put it? Put it next to the motor.
Right.
Oh, will they hear the motor? Oh, loud and clear. It'll be almost the only thing they do hear.
Right. The focus motor. It's great.
Well, the focus motor too.
Right.
But
especially on autofocus. That's like...
Oh, constantly. Well, anybody watching this, if there is, will know that this is constantly refocusing, because even though I could manually set it, I just haven't. It just seems like a lot of work.
Yeah.
And actually, there's a button I could hit for focus lock where it'll autofocus, and then I say, okay, there. But I'd have to reach up and do it, and then it would refocus on my hand.
Right.
I mean, I guess I could do it with you sitting there, but...
Yeah, it's not quite professional.
I don't
looking.
care.
Yeah, as long as it's not going
care.
Constantly, then you should be okay.
Yeah, the card was too slow. Well, that's fine. That was a good enough segment anyway. We can close this one in the dark.
Okay.
So, I want to thank you for coming out these many weeks.
And every time I've been coming out here, even in the springtime, it was hot as shit.
Yeah.
It's always that day.
We've had some hot podcasts.
Yeah, because even the last one we did was March.
That sounds about right.
Yeah. And that day it was like 80 degrees out.
Yeah.
We were dying in here.
Yeah. In the winter, it gets nice and cool, but the good news is if it gets too cold, I can just fire up the space heater And by that, I mean render a video, like a nice 40, 50-minute video in 4K, and it gets nice and warm in here from all the processing power of the video card and the CPU.
Yeah, and you can close the door and throw on the space heater for a couple minutes and get it warm enough in here and then record, and you'll still be warm. So.
Yeah, it's nice.
Yeah.
All right, well, that's enough of that, huh?
Yep.
All right.
Toodles out there in podcast land. Toodles.